All right, how's it going, everybody? It is the early edition of the NHL DFS strategy show by Awesemo.com. We are presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, and kind of a weird one today. Monday, happy Thanksgiving to our Canadian friends. Um, we've got a 7 gamer to go through here, and I think it actually looks like a pretty good slate. So I'm pretty excited to talk about this. Hopefully, you guys had some success over the weekend playing NFL or NHL. Um, I NFL did not go well for me. Man, I don't think I've had a good NFL week yet, but NHL I had a couple chances at it last night. Um, there's actually some decent tournaments for a Sunday. I guess that's because NBA hasn't started yet, but um, yeah, we can look at that on lineup study, see what won. Went to bed thinking I had a good chance, and ended up actually losing money in the whatever it was, the $8, the $10. I can't remember what it was yesterday. Um, so let's see. A bunch of you probably watching at work. We'll just wait a few minutes to get started here. This is going to be a slate where you definitely want to be at your computer, or if you're a single lineup person, maybe you want to have your phone handy at, what would that be, 12:30 Eastern, because there's already some news coming out about goalies that at least I wasn't expecting. So like Rask isn't starting for Boston. It's a lock. That's not a big deal, but you're probably not going to get much news before 12:30 Eastern on the four 1 Eastern starts. So that half hour before is going to be crucial. Would suggest if you're playing multiple lineups, especially to be able to swap. There we go. Llama no work. Very good. I mean, that's how you do it. Yeah, I like morning slates as well. Looks like a bunch of you guys are up and ready and fired up for some hockey during the day on a Monday. It's weird. Um, I stacked Vegas 2, San Jose 2, but had negative from goalie. Yep, that'll do it. Uh, Goalie's tough, man. NFL most competitive fantasy. Don't sweat it. I don't know. I think NFL should be the softest. Uh, Maybe I'm just not any good at it. That's a very real possibility. Also, a solid NHL week for me since last Wednesday. Very small, but I'm up 60 since then. There you go. That's, I mean, can't complain with the profit, right? Why are we dropping frames here? I think the connection looks fine. I'm kind of watching on delay, making sure everything looks smooth. I don't know why it's telling me I'm dropping frames. But anyways, once again, the reason this is early is because of the 1 Eastern lock. Um, Canadian Thanksgiving. Can you be profitable running one lineup? For sure. Yeah, a lot of guys do that. Legalized. For sure. I think probably in any sport, right? But especially in NHL. I used to run just one lineup a couple seasons ago, and it worked out pretty well for me. And yeah, it's just a variance-based sport, so you're gonna lose uh, a lot more often. But when you win, and let's say you play the lineup across a bunch of different tournaments, you're gonna have obviously bigger nights, especially if you're playing single entry and stuff like that. I've been profitable running one lineup. There you go. Yeah. See, people in Slack even saying, yeah, a lot of people probably run one lineup, especially like on a day like today. I think that's probably even more viable if you're just on top of the news. You make your swap, make sure everyone in your lineup is expected to play at the very least. It's kind of weird that DK is including the late game, both of the late games. So we got 4 noon games, or I guess noon my time, 1 Eastern. Uh, let's see. I'm on the wrong day here. So we got 4 noon games, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I would expect them to include that one, so I wasn't surprised by that. But the last two, uh, this one's 4 hours later, and then 7.5 hours. after the start of the slate for the start of the last game. I mean, that's crazy. I don't know. It was weird. They've gotten away from the all-day slates. So I'm not complaining. I mean, I love this game being on the slate. I used to like the all-day slates a lot, but until they took them away, and now you just get used to playing like basically everything's like a turbo, especially when they had the opportunity to do it. I wouldn't have been surprised if they just had gone 4-game main slate and just made the last 3 games all spread out, but a 3-game like late slate. That's what I was expecting, but whatever. We got a 7-gamer all day sweat. At least that's the idea. But gonna talk about Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. They have their NFL contest posted for next week. Right now I'm on the Monday through Thursday slate. I was just seeing what kind of contest they were offering. 250K baller, 10% management fee, just over 10%. 6,000 places paid, 250K prize pool, nice flatter payout structure than you're going to see at some other sites. Obviously, the lower management fee is huge, and 150 max. So you can run a bunch of lineups if you want, but a lot of people probably aren't running 150 just because there's no CSV edit. So a little bit more manual work, takes a lot of time, and I think for a lot of pros, the big time pros like the Osmos and guys like that, even though I know Alex has been playing a lot of lineups in the Yahoo $10 baller, a lot of those pros aren't going to take the time if they can't do the CSV edit. They'll just take their money elsewhere, and that's good for 99.9% of us. So I think the $10 is a great tournament. They're also offering NHL contests. Looks like the $12 filling up pretty fast. Again, lower management fee. A little bit smaller today, probably because they, just anticipating. Maybe a lot of people don't even know that it's an early slate lock. But yeah, it's a pretty good place to play. And if you're interested in getting up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points, you can go to Emacs Primetime I keep saying NHL. Primetime NFL article, which I believe is out for tonight. Yeah, I think he got it out last night. I'll link it. You can see some more information about how to get essentially up to $30 of free money on Yahoo with your first deposit with our promo code. All right, lineup study. We can look at 7 games. This will go quick with just me, I think. I hope. We got to be out of here by 11 Eastern because that's when the NFL show started. So I just wanted to make sure that we got a show in early because a live before lock, I don't know if that would have worked with all this late news. I don't know if I would have been able to have been focused, honestly. All right, let's look at yesterday really quick. It was a pretty decent 3-gamer, I thought. So I played it. I don't know. It feels like I play every slate at the beginning of the season, at least. Let's see. It was a 110 max. I put in 100. I don't know why I just didn't put in the extra 10, but whatever. Wasn't a great day for the people that multi-entered. Interesting. 75. Micah J usually puts in the max, but I wonder if there's a method to the madness why I didn't put in 110. I guess I usually put in the max too, so maybe they're thinking the same thing about me. But wasn't a great day overall for the pros, or not the pros, the people who max enter. Not necessarily a pro if you max enter. What else do we got here? I can't click around here. There we go. Let's see. What actually won it? Single bullet. Wow, that's pretty good. Stastny, Stone, Pacioretty. It was weird. I know. So Crosby was with Dominic Simone and Gensel, as they had been before. So this is an interesting lineup for people to end up on. Was Aston Reese? He must have been popping in somebody's projection system. Because, even on a 3-game slate, I thought he would be, under 1% owned. He was on the 3rd line for Pittsburgh. And, I was like, oh, man, he was grading out as a pretty good value for us, I know. So I ended up with a lot of him with the type of lineup construction I was running. That's why I got into, I had like 3 out of the top 10. I had 3 in the top 10 real late in the slate because I had a bunch of Aston Reese one-offs with Crosby, Gensel. But it turns out a lot of people had that too. So he must have been a pretty decent value. I mean, 3,100. I think he was on PP2. That might have been the case. Didn't even get a great performance out of Anderson or Monahan. This person just kind of hit the nuts with Aston Reese, Crosby. Wasn't even fantastic, but Vegas 2 was the line you needed. I needed Vegas 1 at the end, but that's how it broke. Vegas 2 full line goal to cap it off and kind of knock me out of everything. But congrats. Single bullet can be done in the large field tournaments, but wouldn't recommend playing one lineup in a top heavy tournament like this. I think you're better off playing like single entry type stuff, but that is just me. Not to say that if I was playing higher dollar single entry stuff, I wouldn't throw it in here. I mean, of course I would, for an extra $8 at a chance at 5K if you do actually hit the nuts, because it does happen. But yeah, you see testosterone. Looks like the testosterone strategy has worked out a little bit better as of late. I saw in this top lineup, Stastny, Bluger, Tanev, so Pitt 3, Vegas 2, full stacks for the forwards on both sides. The classic testosterone, Burns, Carlson in the same lineup. I don't know how I feel about this, because of course they could both get there, but like, are they gonna both get there with goals, right? So like, if they're having big games, I guess they could both get the double bonus, and San Jose could score like 2 goals maybe, and they could both have 18 points on with the new DK scoring. But I'm always interested to see if like this is a strategy that works out. 2 high-priced defensemen on the same team in the same lineup. So maybe that's something we can look at. I know that testosterone does it a ton, but if you wanted to get away from this, like if you were doing this kind of lineup construction, you could just make a rule in Fantasy Cruncher to limit 1D per team. That would be a way to not do that. And I've thought about doing that, and I have done that on some slates, but interesting to see that is something testosterone doesn't really care about, it looks like. Fleury, 27 points, got the win. Yeah, it was, here's my lineups. We can check them over pretty quick. All got bumped down. Like I said, I was on Aston Reese a little bit, not necessarily intentionally. I think I had like 7-8% of him, but felt like I had a good shot at it. Needed more Theodore instead of Morrissey here, and I might have had a better shot at it. Gio was fine, but of course needed a little bit more out of him. And then I really liked Turtle, but everyone liked Turtle, and he ended up scoring. So it didn't really get me any sort of edge on the field. Do we want to look at Saturday really quick? I think Slewfoot had another big day. Let's see here. Is this updating? Come on, lineup study. Maybe the NFL contests are updating, that's why. All right, there we go. $20. Slewfoot up there. BD Holla, 89. Both guys 150 both tournaments. Tom had a pretty nice night here as well. Tom was running a lot of 3-3 stacks with, I believe, correlated goalies for a lot of them. Sort of the testosterone strategy, but plays a lot of puntier defensemen, Sandheim, Matt Niskanen. So not just the power play guys. But yeah, Tom had a pretty good night here. It looks like in both the $20 and the $5 brick, just kind of shark infested up here with all these guys multi-entering, Eddie, Alex, a bunch of familiar names. So it was a pretty good night for the pros and the MME guys. Same thing in the $5. A lot of the same names up near the top. Oh, D. Kiefer. There we go. Man, brutal tournament though. Like you get a top 10 score, cash a fifth of your lineups, and lose money. That's the worst, man. Same thing. I cashed almost a third and lost money, but I got a 28th. Been on tilt with this with NHL this season, but hope to get better. Yeah, we're in the infancy of the season. We've got a lot more tilting to come, and hopefully a lot more big nights to come as well. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that have been with you. Okay, let's go through the games. Actually, let me refresh my news feed over here. Bots has a Twitter list of beat writers if you guys want to follow that. That's a good place to check, especially for like pregame skates and stuff like that. Anything new since I just got on here? I'm sure there's going to be a ton of weird stuff that happens. Zuccarello is also a game time decision, so I just want to mention that quick because I might forget that when we get to the Wild game. All right, Ducks, Bruins, 2.3 implied total for the Ducks, 3.1 for the Bruins. John Gibson going up against Yaroslav Halak. He just got confirmed. No Tuukka Rask today for Boston, but there is going to be Boston 1. Did you play for the Tommies NCAA hockey? I did not, but I did go there. So that's where the name comes from. People, they're like, why are you trying to hide your name? It's the school name. That's all. Boston 1, would love to get to a bunch of them right now. It's a great spot as far as like the matching goes. I don't think it really matters. I would expect them to actually be pretty popular. All three of these guys, they are the most expensive line on the slate. They're $400 on DraftKings, talking about $400 more than Colorado won. Buffalo won the third most expensive line at $20,600, but 22-2, a little bit restrictive. I'm still finding a way to get to a bunch of Boston 1. I don't think they're going to be a team that I get to as far as that's going to decide my night. If they go off, I'm going to be sort of with the field, and then same thing. If they don't go off, if they're not the nuts, it's not going to hurt me too much here. That's how I anticipate playing it. Right now I'm at 18% Boston 1 stacks. It'll go up or down probably a little bit, but the pricing is not as restrictive as I thought last night when I first saw this. So they're probably going to go up against Getzlaf, Comtois, and Kasha if these are the Ducks lines, and or the second line, Henrique, Raquel, Silverberg. A little bit of a balanced top 6 for the Ducks. These last couple games, they actually did keep these lines together for Anaheim, which I like to see on bigger slates. If I think teams might switch things up, sometimes I'll just cross them off my list, because not only do you have to guess which lines stay together, but they also have to score a ton of points, and it's not a good spot here for the Ducks, I don't think at all. So looking through, I don't think, like, Boston is, in my numbers that I like to look at, they're like the worst matchup when they're at home, and a lot of it's because the top line, but they also have quality second and third lines. Their fourth line can go up against top lines. They did that last season towards the end of the year, and in the playoffs, like, they're pretty comfortable with all 4 of their lines. So they're just incredibly tough on bigger slates. Could Anaheim get there? I suppose, but I'm not really taking that chance today. 7-game slate. I don't think I need to get that deep, at least not right now. No defenseman that I really like on the Ducks, and then on Boston, Krug and McAvoy, I think both solid plays. Krug more if you're playing Boston 1, so he's kind of an awkward price if you're already playing a $22,200 line. Getting in a 5K defenseman is going to really handcuff you with the rest of your lineup. So I'm not going crazy on Krug right now. I'm just under 10% on him. And then on the other Boston lines, I think the second line makes for an okay filler stack. They're behind a bunch of lines in their range for me. I don't love Kuhlman as the third guy on the line. So not a lot of these guys grading out all that well for me, even though like they're going to be an okay value just because they're cheap and they're top 6, but they're not a heavy target of mine tonight. Only interested in 3 games today. Man, I think there's stuff to like in every game. Halak 8,400, just really expensive. I wonder how owned Gibson's going to be. It's just a really tough spot here for him. So even at 7K, it's a good price. He's more than a 7K goalie. Could he stand on his head? I suppose he could. But and I don't know if I'm going to get to much Gibson at all. Really, really tough spot. Power play, even strength. Probably a lot of quality chances coming from Boston here. Minnesota, Ottawa, we've got a 3.4 implied total for the Wild, 3.1 for the Senators. Oh, by the way, I did update projections. I will update them again after the show. Alex will have ownership out for us in the next bit. And then what else do we got? Cheat sheets, power plays, all the free stuff as well is already posted. So just keep an eye out for projections. I'll at the channel or tell you guys when I go through and update and change out guys that need to be changed out if they need to be after the show. Dubnyk, Craig Anderson, both penciled in to go, I suppose. But it is an early game. We do see weird things. Make sure you confirm who's actually playing in net, and then, of course, the line combos. So Minnesota started off very bad. I mean, it's just been a disastrous start to the season. Gave up another 6 or 7 goals on Saturday. Their lines have been in flux. I mean, they're just all over the place. I believe the ones that we're showing on the screen are what they skated with yesterday. I think they had a practice. I don't remember if it was optional or what, but Koivu, Zucker, and I'm trying to think. Koivu, Zucker, and Fiala, I believe, were skating together in the last game, and I think they stuck together for most of the game. If it is Koivu with Parise and Zucker, I suppose that's the line I would want to stack up here. It's hard not to like Minnesota with these prices and the 3.4 implied total. It's going to be a ownership thing for me. I like the Stahl-Fiala combo. I don't necessarily like Hartman with them. I just think I'm going to be probably with the chalkiest Minnesota line if it's going to be Koivu, Parise, Zucker. I kind of hope that we just do see some new lines than what Daily Faceoff has posted, because that's what a lot of people are going to go off of. And maybe some people won't see the new lines, and you might be able to get an edge that way while not having to go overboard on Minnesota. So that'd be like the preferred way I want to play this, is just play some of whatever the new lines are. But Parise's too cheap. Zucker has a good price. Koivu centering them. You guys kind of know how I feel about that, but I think he could probably run into some assists against this terrible, at least defensively terrible, Ottawa team, who actually held the Lightning to 2 goals on Saturday. Weird stuff happens in these day games. Dumba at 5,400 is one of my favorite defenseman plays on the day. I don't think that's really a secret at all. You could stack him up with either of the 2 lines, assuming they're somewhat normal. Suter is also listed on the top power play, but Dumba is the clear target for me at 5,400. Just way more offensive upside. Way would rather play him as a one-off over Suter. So I'll find the extra $500 to try to get up to Dumba as much as possible. Ottawa lines, I think they do look pretty good here too. Like I said, with I shouldn't say the lines look very good, just the pricing compared to the implied total. Like Minnesota is dirt cheap for a 3.4 total. Ottawa's even cheaper for a 3.1 total. Yes, I do love Dumba. He's fun for DFS. He hasn't been good so far, if I remember correctly. He's been quiet, I should say. But I expect him to turn around. Who knows about the Wild, though? Like, I wonder if this is a spot where, I mean, it would be a quick trigger, but new GM for the Wild. Maybe Boudreau's not his guy. I don't exactly know what's going on, but they're 0-4. And, I mean, they've been embarrassed a couple times already. All of a sudden, you lose to Ottawa and you're 0-5. Like, I wonder what the talk is as far as how long they're going to let Boudreau go if they continue to struggle like this. So maybe someone in Slack knows better than me, but seems like at least the pressure's on for Boudreau. The seat's getting a little bit hot. White, Tkachuk, and Tyler Ennis is, I think, the best line for Ottawa. You get the best correlation out of them. I believe Ottawa stuck to these lines for the most part in their last game. And they did win that, so you would expect them to roll out something similar. So Ottawa won with Tkachuk, but also with Shabbat at 5,500, I think makes for a nice 4-man stack and super cheap. We're probably going to see, actually, Nemesnikov, Anisimov, although I think Anisimov left the Saturday game. He may be dealing with an injury. I'm not exactly sure what his status is, but I think this third line, whether it's JGP slotting in or if Anisimov is able to play, I think they're probably going to see the most time against whatever Ottawa deems the Minnesota top line. I'm not sure that's a huge deal for Minnesota, but just in terms of matchups, you might see this third line get some extended run, even though I don't think you need to go that deep on this slate. Zaitsev is a guy that Cliffy likes, and I kind of agree for 3,600. He's not listed on the power play, but I'm probably going to include him in my crunch at 3,600, playing top pairing minutes with Shabbat, probably skating with this top line a good amount. Brandstrom, if you're punting at 3,300, not a bad play either. But of course you want to get up to Shabbat if you can. And let's see where I'm at on Shabbat. Yeah, he's my third highest owned defenseman right now. So I think there's maybe not a clear number one for me, but there is a guy that I think is the best option tonight. And then I think Dumba and Shabbat are close behind. They're in that sort of next tier for me. Florida and the New Jersey Devils, 3.2 implied total for the Panthers, 3.3 for the Devils. Essentially a pick-em game here, depending on where you look. Bobrovsky and Corey Schneider I have in right now. This could change. So again, check the goalies in exactly 2 hours from now. We'll know kind of who's actually skating and which goalies are playing and all that stuff. So just be sure to check in. These are very unconfirmed. But one thing we do know is that New Jersey, one is, they have Taylor Hall. So that's a pretty good start. You'd like Heischer to be on the top power play. But Subban is dirt cheap. I know he hasn't been very good lately. Jeffrey Gould, Ennis, or Ryan. I'm assuming you mean Bobby Ryan. I kind of like Ryan as a low-owned one-off. He's actually generating a ton of scoring chances and just overall a decent amount of offense individually. And I think he's not great, but I think he is a decent one-off at really low ownership if you're running like a 3-2-1 or something like that in a tournament. What do you think about playing it like there isn't late games? What do you mean, Llama? Do you mean just like Xing out the first few games? Or the last few games? I mean, I wouldn't. Why would you... Like, you have all these options. Why would you limit yourself, right? That's how I think of it. But, maybe you could do that if you thought you were going to get screwed with some line combos and you wouldn't be able to adjust when half the slate is over. I guess I understand it then, but for me, like, you're going to cut off what is that? Almost half of the slate, 3 out of 7 games. I wouldn't want to intentionally do that. Okay. Heisher, Hall, Palmieri, one of the best values of the night. I think overall they're going to project as a fantastic stack. One of my favorite stacks. They're top 3 for me right now. I don't see a reason why that would change unless this line gets broken up in a big way. Hall at under 7K, one of the best cash options, I think, on the slate. Him and Kane are up there as far as wingers go. The second line is fine, but you still would like power play time. Coleman doesn't play in the power play. Wood doesn't play in the power play right now. They're probably going to have an okay 5-on-5 matchup. I want to check on the Florida lines in their last game. Was that Saturday? Oh, I do have this pulled up. Nice. Because they did some weird stuff. Not weird stuff, but they went back to Barkov with Huberdeau and Dadonov, and then it was Trocheck with Hoffman, Connolly. Let's see. Achari with Sevier and Hunt for a while. I don't know. So I don't know what to expect from Florida. I think we probably don't see these lines, though. I think we might see Barkov here instead of Trocheck. Some combo of Trocheck with Hoffman, Vetrano, Connolly, someone like that. But just be aware. I think there's a pretty good chance we don't see these Florida lines based on what they did in the middle of their last game. Play like fast point scores does NBA. I don't know what that means. Anyways, it's pretty much New Jersey 1 or nothing for me on the New Jersey side. And then on the Florida side, I think you might be able to get an edge just in getting the right combos. So like I said, if Barkov is with Huberdeau and Dadonov, I am all over that line. And I don't think the majority of people are going to swap that when that news comes out. If it's Barkov with Vetrano and Hoffman like we see here, that's also a fine line. It's just going to be, you're more likely to be duped with your Florida stacks. So that's all. I'm hoping for late news because I am going to be around. And if you are going to be around, you should be hoping for late news too, I think. Here to learn. Nice, Alec. Nice. I hope you learned something. What else here? So we've got Ekblad for 5,300, Yandel at 5,600. The pricing has corrected on Yandel. He's gotten a few points in the first few games. I mean, I'm not all that thrilled to play him at 5,600. I wasn't thrilled to play him at 3,500. So $5,600 for a guy you're relying on the power play for. I mean, it's not the worst spot to rely on the power play for because I think the Devils are at like a 50% kill percentage in their first 16 times shorthanded, which is incredibly bad. Obviously, it's not going to stick like that the whole season, but just their penalty kill has been bad. So it is a good power play spot for Florida. That's why I hope we see Barkov with Huberdeau and Dadonov. Dumb question, but best place to get confirmed lines at 10:30. Well, you're gonna want to. What would that be? 10:30 Mountain Time? I don't know. So the slate locks at 1 Eastern. Usually we get line combos and goalie information a half an hour before, especially during the day games. Teams don't skate the morning of. So these first 4 games, it's going to be crucial that you are on Twitter. Honestly, that's the best place to get line combos because the sites won't, Daily Faceoff and Left Wing Lock won't update within that half-hour span. So you're kind of on your own. So Twitter's the best place. Get it directly from the beat writers who are there watching the games, and they're reporting on the lines. 30 minutes before lock. Yep, you got it, Jordan. All right, so Subban with New Jersey 1, I like quite a bit. This is a 6.5 total game. This game's going to have ownership. I'm right there with it. Like, there's nothing I can really argue with. I think there's pretty good 5-on-5 matchups across the board. I think it's going to be pretty high event. And if there's penalties here, this game could go completely nuts on both sides. So I'm not trying to miss out on this one. Just waiting on Florida lines to be confirmed, and then I will adjust. Let's go to Blues and Islanders. We've got a 2.8 implied total for the Blues, 2.7 for the Islanders. Jordan Binnington, Semyon Varlamov, both expected to go. Once again, these are very unconfirmed lines. Check Slack later. We'll be posting everything as it comes in. Barzal, Lee, and Eberle, kind of a line that I've been wanting to be on for really since last season, since they got put together. Incredible 5-on-5 numbers. I usually have to give them a manual bump in our projections because they don't project out as like a great play, even though they are a good value, I think, in most systems. So I like that actually because I think their ownership's going to stay intact, even though I think these prices are way too cheap. So it's not a great 5-on-5 matchup at all against the Blues. If you look at their numbers from last year, but the Blues and the Islanders actually so far this season, I think they're both bottom 5, or I should say they're giving up top 5 expected goals against per 60 on the young season. So we're 4 to 6 games in for a lot of these teams. You can't really take that to the bank. Both of these teams were good defensively last year, but both have struggled defensively to start the season. So just be aware of that. Maybe you get one more game of the Blues struggling at 5-on-5, and Barzal, Lee, and Eberle can take advantage. So that's what I'm going for here, just kind of taking a flyer on them. I do like St. Louis one as more of a filler stack, mid-tier filler on the other side. Shen, Schwartz, Tarasenko, incredible numbers as well. So I hope they don't get matched up too much here and kind of cannibalize off of each other. But I think just prices are too cheap. Maybe the 5.5 total scares some people away. I think just based on what we've seen early in the season, you might get more goals and scoring chances and high danger chances than you would expect based on the 5.5 total. Because, like I said, both of these teams have not been great with at 5-on-5 in their own end. Daily faceoff, they're an okay source. I would check Twitter, do it yourself, because sometimes the sites can be relied on, sometimes they can't. Or join Premium Slack, honestly, because that's where a lot of the good information can be found. Oh, all right, here. We do have ownership now. That is a new thing that is in beta right now. I think Alex he's working on it every day to try to get the numbers closer and closer together. As we get more data, hopefully this will become even better throughout the season. I think it already looks very close to me. I looked at some of the numbers yesterday. It was really awesome for the 3-gamer. I think we've got ownership now, and we'll strip away the beta tag at some point soon. But right now, just a couple freebies here. Highest expected goalie is Bishop. I don't think that's too surprising. I think $7,100 in a winnable game, low total against him. That makes sense. Some of the highest owned skaters, Ovechkin, Kane, Seguin, Taylor Hall, they're all up there in the upper teens, low 20s. Nothing really weird that I'm seeing. Want to check on this game, though. Let's see. Where's Anders Lee, Barzal, and Eberle? Those guys are all hovering around 5% for Isles 1, Shen, Schwartz. I'm just doing Control F right now. I don't have this loaded into my spreadsheet just yet, but actually Blues 1 looks to be a little bit higher owned than Islanders 1, but I have them similar here, both very, very, very good 5-on-5 numbers going back to the start of last season. O'Reilly, Perron, Blay is probably going to get left out a little bit. Ray Rock says Halak. You want to know where Halak's at for ownership? Halak's really low owned. I'm guessing, yeah, Halak's under 3% right now. Maybe he comes up a little bit higher, but $8,400 goalie when you are talking about a slate with Boston 1. You've got McDavid, Kane. You've got Colorado 1, Washington 1. You've got a lot of expensive spots. So that's probably why you're seeing the low ownership on Halak. So nothing too crazy in this game. Once again, Ryan Pulock for 4,200. I'll be going back to that well a lot if he's at this price. I think he actually got on the board last game somehow. Maybe he got an assist. No, he didn't actually. At least it's not showing up here. But he's playing good minutes. He will shoot the puck. It's not a phenomenal spot, but it is just a good value for a guy that does have some upside on his own. So it's not like you have to play a lock with Isles 1. He would be the guy I would go to, but I do like him as a one-off. And then not much going for me on the St. Louis side for D-men. All right, I think I got to speed this up actually a little bit. Stars, Sabres, 2.8 implied total for the Stars, 2.7 for the Sabres. Ben Bishop expected to go. Carter Hutton expected to go. Yes, I do love Pulock. That guy, for whatever reason. I like individual guys with high individual Corsi per 60 numbers, and he has those. At least they're decent. Maybe I overrate him a little bit. But, yeah, always Pulock. Even though it hasn't worked out this season. Bishop, Hutton, we've got Buffalo, very expensive. Like I said, third highest priced line on the slate. This top line, they haven't been good at 5-on-5. And so that's why I don't really like them here. I'm not wild about the matchup against Dallas anyways, and certainly not wild about the 2.7 implied total. There would be a spend up to be contrarian spot. Their power play has been lethal, and all these guys play on the power play. So could they get there? Sure. But like I said on Saturday, if you're going to be priced this way, you have to be like, it has to be either you need to be a great line at 5-on-5, or it has to be a great 5-on-5 matchup plus a good power play spot too. And I'm just not sure. They haven't been good yet at 5-on-5. Buffalo really as a team, but also this line especially, just kind of lackluster numbers. I don't think the matchup's going to be very good if they're going up against Seguin, Ben, and Radulov or whoever Dallas rolls out. Maybe you see hints with Pavelski and Radulov, and I think it was hints with Pavelski and Ben for a while last game. I think Dickinson was up with Seguin and Radulov at some point. So you might see weird stuff coming from Dallas. I think what I'm going to do is probably just have it like this, Seguin, Ben, and Radulov. And then if I need to make late swaps for whatever reason, line combos, or get to a lower owned line, because it is a really good price, then I will late swap accordingly. But I'm just going to go with this right now to leave myself some wiggle room in case I need to swap down to Hintz, Pavelski, and whoever else or something like that. But I don't love Buffalo 1 here at all. They've been making me eat my words a couple times, but I just don't believe in the 5-on-5 numbers yet. And they're priced like they're Colorado 1. They're priced like Edmonton 1. They're $2,000 more, $2,500 more than these three. So even as a contrarian option, I don't really love it. Stalock? Is Stalock going? Oh, Zion in chat. How about that? Is Stalock going for the Wild? I didn't see that. That's a very real possibility, though. Let me refresh. All right, Artem Anisimov, game time decision. Let's see here. I don't see anything on Staylock just yet. Craig Anderson is going for Ottawa. And there's going to be a lot of news to sift through in about a half an hour before the games. I don't see anything on Staylock. It's possible I'm missing it. I'll check it out. Okay, yeah, Buffalo 2 with the deadbeat Sabatka. Yeah, if he could do anything. But like, who else would you put up on that line? Maybe Jimmy VC, give him a chance, or Rodriguez. I don't know. There's not a lot of options outside of Buffalo 1. So I'm probably ignoring Buffalo 1 for the most part today. I didn't get one share of them in my crunch before this. I didn't have all the normal rules and stuff I usually run, but I don't think I'm going to end up there. So if they beat me, they beat me. Rasmus Dahlin, 5,800, a little bit expensive. He's going to be a very good real-life player, you would expect. $5,800, and like I said, not a great even strength spot, not a great power play spot, a little bit too rich for my blood. I like Klingberg better on the other side at 5,200. He's a top 10 guy for me, I think, today easily. That's not saying a ton, but I'll always play him at 5,200 when he's playing on the power play with all these guys. All right. I would like to see Heiskanen up on the top power play at some point. I wonder if that'll happen this season. Avs, Capitals, a couple of games remaining. Philip Grubauer, Braden Holtby expected to go. This, I think, could be potentially a really fun game to watch. So hopefully I'll be able to get to watch some of this. 2.9 implied total for the Avs, 3.1 for the Caps. Backstrom, Ovi, Wilson, if there's ever a spot for them, I think this looks to be a pretty awesome one. Colorado has been better at not taking a ton of penalties so far this season. I don't know if that'll hold up, but I really like the top 6 for the Caps. I'm even getting to some of the third line. Colorado, when they're on the road, since really McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen have been together, they play at a pretty high event style. They do at home sometimes too, but hard not to like both the Backstrom and Kuznetsov lines. Good price you're getting on Kuznetsov. Oshie priced down to where I think he should be priced down most slates. And then Verana. Both these lines not good defensively, as I've talked about a number of times. It has not worked out targeting against them. But I'm actually getting to a bunch of Colorado 1. Let's see where McKinnon's at. McKinnon's at 14%. What's Landeskog? Yeah, Landeskog lower than that. And then Rantanen even lower than that. Rantanen at about half of what McKinnon's at on DraftKings. So I really, really like them as a full stack if you can get there. I also like Kadri with Donskoy and Burakovsky. I think that's going to be a pretty good line. So I will be playing some Colorado too as well. I'm hoping this one is the one that goes nuclear, because the 6 total compared to the 6.5, I'm going to have a lot of exposure on both sides. If I had to choose just one line in this game, it would be Ovechkin, Backstrom, Wilson. I think a very good power play spot for them here. Colorado 1's so expensive. Sorry I'm late. No, you can watch this after we're done. It just goes up on the YouTube channel, so no worries. Carlson, 6,200, my favorite defenseman tonight. Top pairing, 6,200, I think is a good price for the power play spot, and you can fit him in with Backstrom and Wilson being just 10K combined. So not an overly restrictive price on Washington 1. He makes for an incredible pairing as a 4-man stack if you wanted to leave off Wilson and go Backstrom, Ovi, Carlson. Seems like those are always, whenever it's an Ovechkin goal, it seems like 90% of the time it's Backstrom and Carlson assisting. So just very highly correlated plays. Washington rides their top power play unit as they should. Ovechkin basically plays the whole power play if the game's close, no matter what. You can also go Kuznetsov, Oshie, instead of Verana if you wanted to go Ovechkin to try to get something different. That's also a pretty good strategy, I think, tonight. Build lineups like this. Right here, you can export them. I have DraftKings pricing selected at the top. You can select FanDuel pricing if you want, export, make a new lineup, export, do all that stuff. These are the lineups, expected lineups for the actual teams, for the Capitals, for the Avs. So no, those are not my lineups. Cale Makar at 4,500, good price for him. Where did the minutes go last game? I was worried about his minutes going to Saturday now that I think of it. And now he played 21 last game with 2 assists, 3 shots on goal. That's the kind of game I was expecting. So, I wasn't expecting. I was expecting coming into the season, those type of games. But if he's going to continue to play on the power play with this top unit for $4,500, I think you could do a lot worse. So I really like Makar tonight. I think he would be the next guy in. If you're hand building a Colorado 1 stack, go with Makar. I think you can game stack this. I hope it goes nuts because I'm going to be heavily exposed to the top 6 on both sides. Edmonton, Chicago, last game of the slate, and then we'll get out of here. After this, we've got Manny Laura and Laffy, our own Laffy, Fantasy Crunchers Manny Laura, breaking down the Week 6 slate for NFL DFS. They talk about some mistakes that were made. They talk about their personal lineups, how they did, what they saw from the field, what you can learn from. It's actually a really nice, comprehensive show on the slate each week. So I'll be tuning into that, and then we'll be grinding out some NHL news, hopefully. Mike Smith, Corey Crawford, expected to go here. McDavid, Draisaitl, Kassian. One of these things is not like the other, but Kassian does make the line very cheap. I'm okay. You can always leave Kassian off if you want. If you're hand building, I usually leave him in there because if you just look at ownership projections, he is he's always like a fourth of the ownership of McDavid, and that's he's about half right now. So maybe this would be a good time to leave off Kassian. He's not very good, but he does play with very good players, and so DFS, sometimes you got to play guys that are just in good situations, not necessarily guys that are good. But McDavid, Draisaitl, I think are very easily your number 1 and number 2 priorities on Edmonton. I wonder if people are still chasing James Neal, Nugent Hopkins, Neal, Tomas Jurko. Who knows if that line will stay together, but it seems like they do like Nugent Hopkins and Draisaitl together. I think Edmonton, they're like 4-0 or something. I don't know if they've lost yet. Where's Neal at? There you go. Neal at 2.6% ownership expected right now. So not actually a bad spot for that ownership, playing with a good center in Nugent Hopkins, or at least a decent center, and against a team that's very bad defensively in the Blackhawks. I actually don't hate the call on Edmonton too. So looks like people have gotten off the point chasing of James Neal after the 4-goal game. He started off red hot, but his price has adjusted. Nugent Hopkins, Neal, some sort of power play stack for Edmonton, very much in play. They are expensive, but it doesn't get to be a much better spot than against the Blackhawks here. Late night hammer, all that stuff. This one, it's going to have a lot of ownership if you just look at the ownership projections on the site, especially on DraftKings. It is not on the FanDuel slate. On the other side, Strome, Shaw, and Kane is my favorite line here. I believe they stuck together the duration of the game. Was that last game or 2 games ago? I'm going to check it on Natural Stat Trick. We've got a couple more minutes, and then I will leave you guys to Laffy and Manny. Where were they at here? Natural Stat Trick going slow for me. Yeah, okay. They hung together the entire game. Last game, the line was fine at 5-on-5. What else do we got here? They're going to get a favorable matchup. They're probably not going to spend a ton of time against McDavid and Draisaitl at 5-on-5. The Tays line is probably going to handle that for the most part. And then I do actually think the third line is not bad for the Blackhawks either. So that's going to be one I'll probably be overweight on. I don't think you need to make a ridiculous stand on them to get overweight on them, especially for the full stack. But like 3 to 5%, I think, is where I'm going to end up on the Chicago third line. I really like the way Kubalik, we'll call him Kubalik for now, his individual numbers are very, very active the first few games and playing in the second unit. I think he skated with either Tays or Kane, one of those lines, for a bunch of minutes a couple games ago too. So maybe the Hawks like him. Going to get the Edmonton depth, which is just brutal. Defenseman on the Edmonton side. I'll be there this afternoon. Oh yeah, Burakovsky, revenge 2-goal game. There you go. Clefbaum and Nurse are both pretty expensive. I give the lean to Clefbaum because he's listed on the top power play with McDavid and Draisaitl. But probably wouldn't want to play too much of him if I'm not playing an Edmonton 1 stack. On the other side, Gustafsson is my favorite guy, listed on the third pairing. That is a concern because he's not playing a ton of minutes. He only played 16 last game. You want to see him closer to 20, but 5,100 in what looks to be a very good power play spot for the Hawks. Kind of hard to argue with, especially if you're stacking that second line. You're going to be able to afford Erik Gustafsson. So a bunch of good power play spots here that I like. This sets up to be a pretty fun slate. If you guys got any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or in Premium Slack. Actually, is probably the best place to do so. Promo code HitTheIce gets you 50% off the first month of your Osmo Plus All Access package. Once again, cannot stress this enough. Keep an eye on the news. Keep an eye out for line combos, news about goalies, all that stuff. With this being a day slate on a Monday, no less, on a holiday for Canadians, a lot of weird stuff could come out half an hour before each game. So you're going to want to be around, be available to late swap and all that stuff if you need to do so. How do you feel about DeBrusk for Boston? I'm not crazy about Boston too. DeBrusk is on the top power play. If you wanted to do a 5-man Boston power play stack, yeah, you'd include DeBrusk, I suppose. But outside of, at least as far as the Boston second line goes, I don't really prefer them tonight or today. All right, that's going to do it for me. Tune in to Laffy and Manny as they talk about the Week 6 slate. Very interesting show. One of my favorites we have here. They'll talk about Fantasy Cruncher. Manny is from Fantasy Cruncher, of course. They'll talk about mistakes that were made, mistakes maybe they made themselves, and what they could learn from going forward from this week's NFL slate. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Keep grinding the news, and hopefully you guys have some good luck tonight.